So I just did one book that my wife and I got for Christmas. Now I'm doing a book she got me for Christmas. This is Dave Canterbury's latest book. It's called The Bushcraft Essential Field Guide. So you can see right off, it's smaller than his other books. This actually can fit in a coat pocket. You know, a field guide has to be carryable. In other words, something like this wouldn't be a field guide. That would be, a reference thing. But this is. And he was going to sign the first 300 copies, right? So this is his signature. I've got to say, I couldn't see any letters in this, but I showed it to my daughter, and she says, "Oh yeah, I see the D right there." So, I believe he's left-handed, but that's his signature. So I got one of 300 of these, and at least the ones that he had in stock that he had signed, they're out of stock. I don't think he'll probably be signing more of them. I could be wrong, but what's happened here that is fairly significant is, he was a champion of the 10 C's. In other words, this list of 10 items that all started with C, like cordage, a cutting tool, a candle tool, candle light, headlamp, a cover, container, and so everything started with a C for these 10 basic things. But there were like 5 basic things and then 5 more that were added onto it. And so as he's gone along, of course, he studies a lot of material, especially the older things from Nesmith and some of these other people, and incorporates them in. And of course, he's been doing this bushcraft school for quite a long time now. And so this is kind of like an update. And so now we have what's being called the 5x5 patented 5x5 survival system. So the 5 basics here are going to be self-aid, shelter, fire, hydration, navigation, and signaling. So what he's done, he said, the 5x5 survival system, 5-5, and in ham radio you'll hear things like 559, 554, but the 5 and 5 have to do with the strength and clarity of the message that you're receiving, you're hearing, or Morse code or whatever. So this is a term that's used in ham radio too, which, if you follow Dave Canterbury, I don't catch every one of his videos, but it's obvious that he has branched out a little more in one of his videos. He's done, he got a metal detector and he's had a blast with that, and shows the videos of him doing it. And the latest thing that's different is he's gotten into ham radio. He's gotten I'm pretty sure he has a general class license at least, because he's using equipment that you would need that license for. I don't know. He might have the higher one, the extra. But I don't think he just has a technician, because he's using certain bands and equipment that you need the general license for. But anyway, so the idea is that things evolved and he's learned more. So he's put it into a different system. I mean, yeah, he still has the 10 C's, but he's putting it in a different reference, a different kind of system. Like I was just saying, a candling device. There he goes, candling device, and he's got a headlamp. Not many of us actually will be using candles, but you might have candles. A canvas sewing needle. Let's see if these actually have. Yeah, he's got cordage here. So 5 C's of survivability. So what he's done is taken stuff from all of the books and condensed it down and put it in here. So each subject isn't going to be as involved, but you're going to understand where everything fits. One of the other major differences, I guess, is that, let's say, the Dave Canterbury 2.0 is the incorporation of the idea of a multi-tool or Swiss Army knife. I think over time, he's got folding saw here instead of just a regular axe or hatchet, with the idea that a multi-tool or Swiss Army knife it really is effective if you're trying to affect your livability, whether it's bushcraft, where you're just going out in the woods to enjoy nature, to stay in nature a while, or especially if you're in a survival type situation. Because the thing that a multi-tool gives you that a survival knife doesn't give you is a lot of interface with man-made things. In other words, now in an actual survival situation, a screwdriver might be a lot more important than a knife. So that's something that I think is reflected here. But so let's go through just the chapters that are here. Let's read the dedication. The book is dedicated to Pathfinder School instructors from both past and present. As the book lays out the basic system of teaching from introductory through intermediate level, I cannot take sole credit for its development. Some of the concepts have been a group effort and are a shining example of what a group of like-minded people can accomplish through a creative effort. And of course, he doesn't actually mention it here, but he does in other things he wrote, that, he's taking information from woodsmen, and the pioneers and the people who went out and hunted and different things and had to actually live in the wild. So chapter 1 is about survival priorities. The subtitles in it are the 5 survival priorities, the 5 C's of survivability, the 5 C's of sustainability. There you've got 5 by 5 or 10 C's. You've got chapter 2, self-aid, and the subheadings in that are the 5 B's of self-aid, essential tips on personal hygiene, natural medicines. Chapter 3 is emergency shelter configuration, the 5 W's of camping selection, and you've probably heard some of these: wood, water, weather, widowmakers, and wildlife. And the wildlife can be mosquitoes too. Doesn't necessarily be bears. 5 shelter necessities, 5 emergency shelter configurations, 5 components of an emergency shelter kit, critical functions of heat loss / stop loss mechanisms, thermal regulation. Then we've got chapter 4, firecraft, 5 elements of fire, 5 ignition sources, 5 uses for fire. Hydration, we've got chapter 5, 5 water contaminants, turbidity, chemicals, bacteria, protozoan, and virus. 5 basic disinfection methods for water. Then we go to chapter 6, navigation and signaling. We've got 5 basic navigations lessons with a compass, intermediate map navigation concepts, additional navigation tools. Then we've got chapter 7, which is bindcraft. Okay, things to do with rope or twine. 5 basic knots and hitches, 5 additional knots, 5 lashings. Then we have chapter 8, landscape resources, trees. 5 useful trees, 5 additional apothecary trees, Sometimes I trip on my words here. My mouth is so dry in the morning sometimes. Medical preps. Then we have Chapter 9, Pioneering. 5 simple machines of survival importance, 5 wooden tools, 5 critical axe skills, 5 tool rule, 5 critical knife skills, 5 knife positions, 5 belt knife criteria, and then we have a glossary and an index. I don't understand books where they don't put indexes in them. And there are books out there, and it's like, even sometimes the survival books, and it's like, why would you be lazy and produce a book without having an index? I mean, if all of a sudden I say to myself, oh, UV light sterilization, what does it say about it? Well, I know it's in here because I already looked, but page 99, UV light to sterilize water. And you can go to it rather than saying, okay, wait a second, it's got to be in this, is it in the water chapter? Where is it in, So anyway, he's got good illustrations too. But, of course, I would add that, for this to be effective, you kind of got to know the other material. In other words, this is more of like a reminder and overview you can have with you. But if you haven't practiced some of these skills and you don't have some of the other material that you've looked at and understood, a mention of something in here might not just be as helpful as you want it to be. But with that background, like firecraft or having a survival knife, knowing how to strike a ferro rod, all those sorts of things, then seeing it in the context here is going to make a lot of sense to you. And again, I like the size. There's like no reason why this couldn't be with you when you go hunting, when you're out and about, and you're traveling in the woods. And while it's not primarily a survival book, it has survival components in it. I mean, the whole idea of the 5 C's, or he's calling it 5x5 system, is you're still going to have those 10 C's with you. You're not going to go out into a situation where you don't have the things to survive that are very hard to duplicate in nature. One of them is a cutting tool. And yeah, you can flake rocks and make some kind of crude cutting implement, but it's going to be very crude. It's going to take you a while to do it correctly. And if you hadn't practiced it and learned how to nap, they call it napping, where you strike, certain materials like flint or obsidian, it breaks a certain way, usually, you can make something out of it, but you hit it wrong, it can just totally destroy it. Or there's some crack in it you don't see, it totally destroys it. And it's not as rugged as, a good survival knife. And same way with cordage. You can make cordage, you can take all the time to make it. And it's just going to be very time consuming. In other words, if you determine you need 12 feet of cordage, and you're making that out of natural materials, that's going to take a long time. It's so much better to have, 12 feet of paracord or 12 feet of bank line or some other strong twine or rope, thin, small rope that you can just take out of your pocket or your kit and do what you need to do, rather than, hopefully we don't, if you're in situations where you expose yourself to the potential of, being lost or being stranded or whatever, that you're smart enough to have things with you to help you in that situation. And of course, I guess I didn't see that as I was running through here in a quick look. The most important thing for survivability is your cell phone. You've got to have some means of communication. You could say maybe that falls under communications, signaling, but but there are situations you could get in where the cell phone's broken. You could have, you know, you could have been ignorant and decided to go, climb a mountain, not tell anyone your survival, that your plans, so that you'll actually be missed after a certain number of days. So you could get in a situation where all of this sort of thing needs to be put into action to survive a situation. So there you go. I'm going to enjoy reading this, and looking at how he's integrated things in, and also too looking at the idea of some of the newer information that he's incorporated in this, and we'll tell you how it goes as we go along. And bye.